Hello and welcome to the next video on the Korg microARRANGER. As you can see from the performance in the beginning, we had lots of things going on and it was a very dynamic performance with lots of changes. And that's because I had a custom single touch setting 1, 2, 3, and 4 and I had a custom performance save. So there was a lot we could expand on as I played that, and it went on for quite a while. You didn't have to listen to the whole thing, but I wanted to show you how to set that up and how much control you have by setting up your single touch setting, or SDS, as it's displayed here, SDS 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I took a stock factory preset style and I chose the ballad, and I chose the diva. So that's how we're going to start off. Go ahead and go to your factory style and choose your diva. Now if you have the more rare KorgARRANGER called, I think it was called the Liverpool, which had a lot of Beatles accompaniment on there, you can still do this tutorial, but you won't probably have these presets in here. But you can still follow along and see how I've changed this to make some very nice sounds. So this is a part of sound designing, but we're not exactly designing sounds from scratch. And of course we didn't make the style from scratch, but we're going to change it around a little bit. So if you have the diva style on your keyboard, you should give it a play and listen to what it sounds like just playing by itself. So if you compare the two styles, the factory preset and the one I have now called Diva, you're going to hear a little bit of difference. So let's start there. So I selected the ballad category and I selected the Diva preset. Now we're going to hit the exit key. This is just slightly off the screen. We've got to hit the exit key to give us this display of our split screen of the left side being the accompaniment abbreviation. It's not showing all the 1 through 5, and on the right side showing our full real-time instruments that we play on the keyboard, and that is the club piano, and the tinkling pad is what I have in there now. So now we're going to take a look at the full feature. Now we're going to get that by this switch here. It's the track switch. Now on track switch we're displaying all 8 accompaniment instruments. So here we got what I've changed. I've changed the melodic tom from a different kit. I've changed to the brush kit from a different kit. And I changed this digibell, made it a digibell from the original kit. And that's all the changes I did to the accompaniment. Now there's volume changes also. So don't forget that you can turn these on and off as you wish. Here I just turned off the first 4. So don't forget you can turn any of those off and then save it with it turned off. But I'm using all 8 accompaniments that was in here. I just simply changed these 3. The digibell, the brush kit, and the melodic tom have been changed from the original Diva, which you'll see on your KorgARRANGER. And I adjusted the volume to where I thought it was nice. So let's get out of here. I'm going to get out of my track switch, go back to this split display of accompaniment and real-time instruments. So the STS-1 I have changed. It is now a club piano and a tinkling pad. As you can see, the tinkling pad and the club piano have this icon next to it. Also, the strings have the icon. The strings, the 4th one down, is always the left hand on a split. It doesn't play unless the keyboard is in in style play mode and split mode. So on the left, there we have the string. So the volume of the string can be adjusted by holding down, by selecting it. As you can see, there's a selection and there is the icon that makes it active. So this one, even though it's pointing to it, is not active. It's not active until I turn it on or off. So I'm making strings active, and then I'm going to hold down this button here to change the volume. And you can do that for any of the instruments until they're all balanced up. So in this case, the club piano is at 117, and the tinkling pad is at 84. And that's the balance I get for the And when I was on STS-1, I never really played any chords, so I was playing only individual notes. And you can't hear the strings so much when on the lower registers. As you get to the higher registers and you play slow, you can hear a lot more string action and less of the piano in the higher registers. So that gave me two different registers to play in that sound completely different. So on the lower registers I got more of the piano, and the higher registers I got more string if I wanted it. And the next part I'm going to explain is very, very important. Look at up here in this corner. You can see it says -1. I have the tinkling pad selected, which means I adjusted the octave -1. And on the piano, that was adjusted -1. As we put these tones together, changing octaves is one of your best sound design options. So if something doesn't sound right, change the octave and see if it sounds better. Because we're not trying to get three instruments all playing at the same tone and just mudding everything up. So in this case, both are -1, and the strings at the bottom, as you can see, are a +2 because I played it way at the far left of the keyboard. So that gave me, I'm way down at the bottom, it gave me strings over 3 octaves. I could play my chords over 3 different octaves. And this is on an 88 key piano as I have this thing rigged up. Now please don't, if you skip ahead to this video, you're not probably going to understand much. You need to see all the videos before you get to this one. So let's take a look at the STS-2. And here, now these are all different from the normal setup that came factory on the Korg. So now I have a Pro Dyna electric piano, and you can see that one is adjusted another -1 octave. And I paired that with the air clouds. And if you look at that, that's at a -1 octave too. So again, now the air clouds come in at a slow attack. So that gives me the chance to play the piano at a faster speed without the clouds. But if I slow down, then those air cloud synth comes into play. And I purposely paired those up like that. I didn't want the synth background to the electric piano to accompany the piano right at the same time. So depending on how you play, staccato or legato, and how fast you play, so on this slow, the accompaniment was set at 64, which is a very slow tempo. So at the slow tempo we're playing, there is plenty of time to set that into motion. And I'm going to turn that off so you can hear what it sounds like without it. So there's the normal decay rate of just the electric piano. But by turning this on and setting it at a volume, this one has a volume of 89, and the piano's got a volume of 117. So now you can hear that synthesizer cycling through. So let's move on to the next one. Number 3. And this one came with some voices, and I thought, we'll leave the voices in there. But the voices on here are kind of weak. So I put this big panner synth background in it to hide the voices a little bit. Let me turn that off so you can hear just the voices. And the voices sound a little cheesy, and that's why I like to, when I set up a synthesizer, I'm not trying to fool anybody into thinking that these are real voices. I'm just using these as sound design tools. So I use the voices as a background to the synthesizer and combine them all together to get an all new sound. And on the left hand, I put the voices in too. So on the left hand, you got accompaniment to add to the voices. There's the left hand. And again, as you play in the lower registers, and you play in the upper registers, you get different combinations. The two voices have a little more presence in the upper, and the big panner synth in there has less presence. So again, as I played up and down the keyboard, it's like I was adjusting the sounds on the fly, but I wasn't. And even though you can hear the voices all by itself, when the accompaniment is playing, and there you're hearing the left hand and the right hand. There's the left hand and the right hand. Very neat combination. So let's take a look at the octave settings on these. That voice was a -1 octave. This one was a -1 octave. This one was a -1 octave. and the left-hand voices, ooh-ha voices, was a +2 octave in the left hand. Okay, then we went on, and the STS-3, I'm matching to the style play options of 1, 2, and 3. So we have the 1, 2, and 3, each one getting a little more complex and a little more dynamic. Well, so did my accompaniment voices, so that it followed along with the variation choices of the style. So let's go to number 4. And number 4, of course, was the biggest one. So in this one I decided, well, let's really put this one over the top and put brass in. So you can see all 3 layers of instruments. And during the performance I would turn the trumpet off, so I would have just horns. So if you were paying attention, you would have heard that there was just horns in there at times too. And then the trumpet can be turned on at any time, and it's almost like it's a solo with accompaniment. So we got a really good brass sound standing there. But I never played the brass all that hard because it was still a soft, kind of a soft style piece. So let's see what we got here. So the horns and ensemble is a -1 octave. The Glenn and Friend tone is a -1 octave. The mono trumpet is at 0 octave. And the accompaniment strings are at a +2 octave. And that is the SD1 single touch settings styles I did. Now, there is much more you can do in the mixer. So I'm going to this menu button, and this is the style play menu. And the first thing I did is I went to effects, selected that, and the AB setting is telling you these are the effects that are being used in the style. So you have to move the page over 1 page to page 2. And these are the CD effects, and the C and D category effects are for the real-time instruments. So they had this reverse synth hall reverb and a chorus effect in there, and I decided to keep it. So I didn't change this, but I did go to the menu and the mixer. First is mixer volume. This is a place you can set up everything all at the same time with volume. It might be more convenient if you want to use that. I've never used it really. I just used the other way that I showed you to turn the volume up and down. But we're going to page over. With the pans, I did correct some of the panning because some of the instruments were panned pretty hard left. So now they're pretty much in the center. But this effect send is how you can set each one of your real-time instruments, the ones you play on the keyboard. This is how you can set up what you want. Now the C, you have to remember what the C and D effects were. The C was a reverb, and the D, you can see the D listing, is the chorus. So what I did is, and these single touch settings now actually select the C and D settings. So if you want to change, if I wanted to change the C setting, the second one down, you have to remember which instruments these are too, of course. The second one down is an instrument we didn't use. So I'm going to select that, and then you use the bottom, move these to, if I want to select the C, I push this button, and then I can hold down the up arrow, or the up button underneath your dial. This is underneath the dial. It's off the screen, you can't see it. But if I move this, you can see it 38, you can see it is changing. So what I'm doing is adding reverb. Now if I come down here and select to get the D, now you can see the D's flashing. Now I can use the data wheel or the buttons to change that. And that was the chorus. So you have to remember where you're at in these mixer settings, because it's not telling you which instruments, but you may have to write those down if you don't have a good memory. So as you can see, I changed the instrument we weren't using, and let's exit out of here. Exit button. It was the nylon key guitar, and as you can see, it's not active. No icon next to it. No, it's not active. So I actually turned reverb and chorus up for something I'm not even using. But let's. I'm going to go to number 2, single touch number 2, and then back to number 1, and watch what happens. Now I go to the menu. I go to the effects, and you can see this returned to the same setting. It returned to the same settings because I didn't save it. When you are, I'm going to exit out of here. When you are editing any of these settings, any of the volumes, any of the mixer settings, that's all under this all under the single touch. So if you don't go to your, after you get done editing your first single touch, remember to go to the right, select STS, and you can see that's number 1, and say yes and yes. Saying wait, you have to wait until it's saved. Okay, so now we're saved. Now if I go into the next setting and come back, all those mixer settings, all the instruments I chose, all the octaves, all of that is saved. And of course you want to save it under a performance. So I'm going back to the right button, and you can see I have a 12/4. That's what I've been working on the whole time. What the name is isn't important. You can rename these if you want, but the location is the most important, and it's showing 12/4, and I'm going to say yes. So this is saving my performance. You have to save the single touch, and you have to save the performance to so that when you select your performance, you will get the correct style and the correct single touch settings to go with that style. So I've made that mistake more than once. I would edit the single touch setting number 1, I go to number 2, forget to save, and when I come back, all of a sudden it's back to where it was saved last. So you do got to remember to save quite often. And that takes care of the single touch settings and some of the mixer settings and the reverb settings. And that's what gave me all of that variety that you heard in that performance. So between changing the variations, using the fills, using the beginnings and the endings, and also during the performance I used an ending to get a different style other than the 1, 2, 3, and 4. So you can click on an ending. I don't know if you can see this. There's the intro, there's the ending. You can just see it on the side of the screen. So let's get the thing going. Now I'm going to click on ending number 1, and the screen shows it counting down. So I'm playing along with it. That's me playing the keyboard. And before it ends, I hit a fill. So before it actually counts down to the end, I hit a fill, which will take me, when the fill's done, it takes me back to whatever variation was selected. So that's a way of, and you can do that with both the endings and both the intros anytime during the song. So if those intros and endings serve as a nice break in your song, go ahead and use them. Just make sure that you hit a fill before it finishes. That way you don't have the break where it stops and starts again. So that's a way to have a lot of fun with this arranger, and I certainly had a lot of fun today with it, setting up these tones in the way that I did. And when you're setting up these tones, it is a form of sound design by combining these layers together and changing octaves to make them work together. You may want everything on the same octave because you're trying to make a big fill, but you may want something that's more spread across and a bigger sound. And you can, since we could save 3 sounds, you can have the bottom part an octave below, the next tone at the same octave, and the next tone at a higher octave. And that gives you 3 octave spread of 3 tones that you might have turned on. And in number 3, I did have 3 tones turned on. But it's this combination of tones, the way the tones react, the octaves you put it on, and especially the volume levels that you give each tone, is how they work together. And that's how they work together to give you these really big, nice sounds. That's a single tone. That's the tones all separate, and here they are together. I just basically made my own orchestra. Now you've noticed the horns and the Glen and Field were completely different frequencies, and that's one of the reasons I picked it, because they don't step on each other. They are independent. And I put the trumpet over the top as a kind of a solo instrument to make it sound like it was soloing over an orchestra. And like I said before, during the performance, on a one verse, I turned the trumpet off and just played the accompaniment, or the horns and the Glen and Friend. And that is the way to really, without diving deep into the editing, I mean, this may seem deep to you, but this is really surface type editing. And it's just a matter of combining sounds, octaves, reverbs, and setting it up. Well, thank you for listening.